Hello and welcome back. If you follow the channel, you know that we have just restored a bunch of high voltage supplies and used them to light up an old CRT for a Xerox Alto monitor and find its color. It was a glorious amber. But I have a whole bunch of other CRTs in my collection, waiting to be played with. Some do light up by simply putting them in front of a UV light, but some do not light up at all. Let's hook them up properly and see if we can make them work as intended. One note of caution, this video shows us dealing with very high voltages. Such voltages are dangerous and can kill you. We make it look like it's easy and we are casual about it, but believe me, it's neither. We took many safety precautions that are not obvious in the footage. So do not try to replicate this at home. Hello! Today we're back in the lab for more tube mayhem, because we have tube time. And we are going to try to light up more of my CRT tubes, which are actually oscilloscope tubes. Now I have the correct high voltage cable, isolated to 10 kilovolts. I figured out that these aren't BNC, they are image Vs. They look like BNCs, except they have a bigger ceramic protection, longer ceramic tube on both the male and the female. So with that, we are a little bit equipped to attempt better hookup. So what tube do we have?
This is the tube out of the Tektronix 527 oscilloscope. And
it's called at least T527 or something like that. And how does it work?
Well, we have a little heater in here. So it's just the filament that lights up. There's a cathode, and it generates an electron beam that comes through here and is attracted to the deflection plates and some other electrodes up here at the front. And then when it hits the screen, it lights up the phosphor, and we see that as a spot on the screen.
And indeed, the basic principle of a cathode ray tube is relatively simple, but to make them work in practice, a lot of electrodes have to be added, and it gets fairly complicated. The various electrodes are easier to explain if we follow the historical development path that led from the initial discovery of cathode rays to a CRT like this one, suitable for making an oscilloscope or a TV screen. Which of course will go well with some elevator music. It all started with Heinrich Geissler, a German physicist, who invented the gas discharge tube in 1857. Geissler put various gases at extremely low pressures in sealed glass tubes with electrodes at either end. When submitted to a very high voltage from a Tesla coil, the rarefied gas in the tube would ignite and start to emit a pretty glow. This eventually became the neon tube as we know it. They were popular and used for decorative purposes. The next step occurred when English physicist William Crookes got intrigued that a small region around the cathode stayed dark, and that the dark region would grow as he further lowered the vacuum, up to the point where it extended through most of the tube. By coincidence, he had used a soft German glass for making his tube, and that glass happened to be phosphorescent. He observed that when the residual gas pressure was very low and the tube mostly dark, the end face of the glass tube itself started to glow green, as if the glass was hit by something. He placed a metal mask in the path and a shadow image of it would appear on the glass. He concluded that some mysterious rays, which he thought were of molecular nature, were traveling in straight lines through the tube. Since the rays emanated from the negative cathode, they were soon called cathode rays. He also found that putting a magnet near the tube would bend the rays up or down. There was something electromagnetic to these rays, and it was hotly debated what their nature could be. It took another Englishman, Nobel Prize winner Professor J.J. Thomson, to find out what these mysterious cathode rays were made of. But first, he had to make an even better tube, one with a near-perfect vacuum, thus eliminating potential collisions between the rays and residual molecules in the tube. Today we would say extending the mean free path. One of his most critical experiments was to show that he could deflect the rays between two charged electrodes within the tube, something that his predecessors had failed to achieve because the vacuum in their tubes was insufficient. After a series of experiments involving many complicated tubes, he correctly inferred that the rays were made of a previously unknown, negatively charged particle. And he did not stop there. He was able to estimate the size, mass, and charge of the mysterious particle. He once again correctly concluded that the particle carried a fundamental unit of negative charge and was at least 1,000 times lighter and smaller than the smallest particle known at the time, the hydrogen atom. He then took the final giant leap and posited that this must not be an atom, but a subpart of it. The year was 1897, and J.J. Thomson had discovered the first subatomic particle, the electron. And while he was at it, he started the field of what we now call electronics, which eventually resulted in this YouTube channel. Thank you, J.J. Thomson. The next major step is attributed to German Nobel laureate Ferdinand Braun. He added an extra acceleration anode with a small hole in its center to produce a small, well-defined beam. He also made the tube extend past the beam-shaping anode and inserted a phosphor-covered mica plate that acted as a proper screen in this front section. With that, Braun had a usable CRT and demonstrated the first oscilloscope. Yet another German scientist, Arthur Whenelt, would give us the next two critical inventions that made the CRT practical. All the tubes we discussed so far were cold cathode tubes. Hot platinum filaments were known to be better emitters of electrons, but Whenelt discovered that if he coated them with barium oxide instead, his hot cathode would emit copious electrons at a dramatically lower anode voltage. Furthermore, he added another electrode around the cathode, known as the Whenelt cylinder, or sometimes called the grid. This cap-like electrode controls the beam intensity and is also the first part of an electron lens, which we'll discuss later. He now had the prototype of a modern CRT, from which our oscilloscope CRT is a descendant. The only major difference is that our hot cathode is separated in two parts, a barium-coated electrode that emits the electrons, and a separate filament that just heats it. This is called indirect heating. But other than that, it's pretty similar. So now that you have been thoroughly educated, you should be able to follow TubeTime's explanation of the electrodes. Right, so in reality it's a little bit more complicated. So I color the electrodes to show the voltages, but there's a bunch of low voltage electrodes, a bunch of high voltage electrodes, and some in the middle. So to be timey, tell us which electrodes we have.
So over here we've got some low voltage electrodes, which is our filament, our cathode, and we have our control grid, which is for controlling the intensity of the beam.
So that's basically the generation of the electrons.
Generating
electron
electrons.
Gun, right.
And then up here we've got high voltage electrodes, and that accelerates that electron beam. And then there's also some focusing grids here as well that shape what that beam looks like.
Right, and in the accelerating electrodes, there is the first anode, which is right after the gun, which is already at 4 kilovolts. Here actually there are two of them. And then all the deflection stuff that's over there, everything that's in the later part of the tube, has also to be at the high voltage. So that means the two sets of deflection electrodes, the interior of the tube, which is coated with some conductive stuff. And then there's an extra silly electrode here that's also at high voltage that prevents the two deflection from interacting. And we'll leave the other ones for focusing later. Okay, and we have all our supplies ready. However, there is a catch. If you look at the schematic, they didn't do it the way you'd think, with 0 volts over here and 4 kilovolts over here. They drove this at close to 0 and put the blue side at minus 4 kilovolts. So that's what we're going to do here. We are going to get the minus 4K, where is what they did from the schematics. We got that from the scope itself. And then the portion of the tube will be at around 0 volts, and then it will be easy to modulate and move the beam around. So on the setup made by Mr. Tube Time, we have the filament, and then there's another catch. We need an isolation transformer. And the reason is that now we are going to put our cathode at minus 4K, and the filament needs to be at minus 4K too, or it will arc. So what we have done is I have purchased this little isolator. It's 6.3 volt in, 6.3 volt out, but it has 5K isolation. This guy takes 5,000 volts of isolation, so I can have one side grounded, and this side will be one of the legs will be to our very low minus 3.8 kilovolt voltage, and on the plus side of the power supply, which is not our ground, we have all the other orange electrodes, basically all the anodes.
Yes.
So I have not turned it on. You have, so go for it. I haven't seen it yet, so
Let's turn on the filament first.
yep.
So the filament is on.
So it's back there. Yeah, I can see. Okay, so the filament is going. Let's put some acceleration voltage, not the full 3.8 kilovolt, actually, just
1500 volts.
200. That's enough. Oh, it sure is enough.
And there we go.
Wow, piece of cake, huh? What's the next step? Try to focus it or try to move it?
Let's try to move it first.
Okay. So to move them, we connect to the deflection plates, which are these little pins that come through the glass on the outside. And here I have two of my amplifiers, and then we have function generators on each. So, and since it's not at ground, we just connect one direct straight to the other, right? That's the whole beauty of the thing.
Well, let's turn it on. And we have deflection.
Oh, so that's a piece of cake. Yeah, so we're going about plus 60 volt to minus 30, something like that. And of course that we are helped that we use a little bit less acceleration voltage, makes it more sensitive. You have the same on the vertical?
Vertical. And here's vertical.
And we have a bouncing ball. And same thing, this goes minus 20. Oh, okay, this one is more sensitive. It goes minus 20 volt plus 20 volts. Alright, so the last thing we have to do is to shape the beam then.
That's right. So we have this defocused spot, and we need to sharpen that up to make a dot.
Right, and that's where we start to touch our middle electrodes. And there's one green and one yellow. And the green is the focus. It's at mid voltage, about 500 to 900 volts above the cathode. And then this one has an extra electrode that not all tubes have, which is called astigmatism. Man, so many electrodes in a semi-modern electron tube. This electron gun from a dual beam oscilloscope tube should allow us to see them better.
That is the grid, and
right
inside, where you can't see it, is the cathode and the filament.
So that's these three. This doesn't exist in this tube, but instead we have this doohickey. Just as an aside, this weird split anode is because this is a dual beam tube. In our tube we have another bizarre first anode for blanking, but let's ignore those details for now.
And then after that we have an anode.
Anode?
And then the focusing connection and the astigmatism connection.
And then we have each of the guns has its vertical plate. There's one here, there's one there for the other gun. That's the isolation plate from over here, I think, this guy.
Yeah, vertical and horizontal.
Right. And that is the single horizontal deflection for the two beams, because it's a scope, it's a specialized instrument.
Right, so both traces always move together horizontally.
Okay, we've finally made it to our last electrodes, the focusing assembly. It consists of a low-voltage cylindrical electrode between two anodes at the high acceleration voltage. This arrangement creates potential lines within the tube that very much look like a lens, like this diagram shows. In this diagram, the focusing electrode is anode 2. Note that the Whenelt or grid is also important as it focuses the electron beam at the output of the gun. The electron lens then images that tight focus onto the screen, like an optical objective would do in a camera. So that would be the focus. Okay, I've written it on there. And that's the extra electrode. We added wire to nothing, right? Okay. With filling and focus. Okay,
all right,
focus.
Now we have a shape.
It's better, it's not super good.
So I'm trying to adjust it right now, but I can't quite turn it into a round dot.
Were you able to focus it before?
No, I haven't tried this yet.
Okay, so this is all new. Alright, so before we focus it too much, we are going to do the control of the intensity, which will be that light blue electrode here, which needs to be 20 volts below 20 to 100 volts below the cathode, so it's the most negative point in everything actually. Oh, alright. Yeah, it did work.
Now we have brightness control.
Can you turn it
brighter?
Up and down? Yeah.
Dimmer.
Okay.
Oh, now it's gone.
Yeah. Alright, so now we have our intensity under control, and I was arguing that we should run it at full. We can go up to 2.9, right?
There's 2000 volts.
Okay.
We'll try and fix that focus.
Yeah. It's not doing so well.
There we go. 400 volts.
I wonder if, are we seeing some... Is the beam moving around in a loop? Are we seeing some noise somewhere?
Maybe it's from the power supplies?
No.
So it's not from the deflection. It's coming in somewhere else.
Yeah. I have to...
Could be these cables.
No. Is careful, it's powered up.
Yeah, it's near 0 volts though. It's not the
cable.
Cathode. As long as I stay away from the cathode. Oh.
Oh, that makes a big difference. Aha! So I think you're focused, but there is some leakage of something in the electrodes. Alright, and tube time is magic fingers.
Wow, it's detecting all the magic.
Oh, you know what? We don't have the mu shield around the thing. Right? This tube should be completely shielded in something.
There we go.
Yeah, oh, and you can see. You can see what's going around, right? There you go. Go faster. There we have it. Give me a sine waves. There we go. It's the other one. There.
Yes.
There we have it. Alright, we finally have made an oscilloscope. Yeah. Ooh, ah. We see the ripple or whatever.
Yeah, I can see the ripple.
Oh yeah, there you go. You can see that it's still doing it.
That looks like 60 hertz to me.
Yeah, it might be just that transformer right here.
Now we can figure it out. We have our own oscilloscope, right?
Alright.
So let's turn this off.
How to make an oscilloscope with lots of HP equipment.
Yep.
There you go.
So that's a little more than a complete cycle. And we are at 30-ish hertz. So yeah, this is 60 cycle interference that we're seeing.
Okay, so we're just seeing a transformer from somewhere. My bet is that it's this one, so we would need to shield the tube. Yeah, here's our new invention, the vertical oscilloscope.
There's a lot of noise in there.
Yeah, it's
It's got to be that 60 hertz.
and that's a problem with tube. You see every defect.
Every defect comes through.
Every
Your
little
has
power supply noise.
Oh,
Everything comes through it.
and if I set the frequency to a multiple of 60 hertz, then we should be able to see a clean trace, or a cleaner trace.
Ah, very smart.
Incidentally, this is why NTSC uses 60 frames, or 60 fields per second.
Let's do 60 hertz. There we go. There. That's clean.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So now we're very near 60 hertz, and you can tell that the noise we're seeing is 60 hertz from somewhere. It is cool. And Eric, while we were working on the other video over there, making nice exponential plots, you've lit another tube.
This is a small one.
Tiny guy. Okay, well, this is good because I thought that tube was dead because he had so much. He had such of a blemish in the middle.
It's got a little bit of burning.
Yeah, if you look at the middle, right here, it has this huge line because that's what it used to display. It's for the CV89, but it's plenty fine. And how much voltage do you need for that one?
This is 2,000 volts right now. We can actually decrease it to 1,000 and experiment with a higher deflection factor.
Oh, but then you see the burning. Yeah, you can see the burning in the screen. We also tried our bigger round tube also from a tech scope, but this one requires a post-acceleration voltage of 10 kilovolts, which we did not have yet. Without the post-acceleration connected, the spot was too dim, so to be revisited later. And for the grand finale, Eric showed off his triple scope clock that he built from scratch a few years ago as an exercise, his own power supply, deflection circuits and software design. You get it, we love CRTs, I hope you do too. See you in the next episode.